68 total points on Monday night. That's what the people want to see. Two really good football teams. Although I come away from this game thinking the Ravens might be in a little bit of trouble. Now, they've taken two losses to two very good teams in the Lions and the Bills. But I got to be honest, like when I watched that defense last night, especially as the game wore on, and I know they're down Matabike and Kyle Van Noy, they don't look great. You know, it's so funny. We look at them preseason and we're like, yeah, this team, you know, Kevin Clark called them of course they did, team from this year. Like in retrospect, when you look back at years past and a team wins the Super Bowl, you're like, maybe I overcomplicated it preseason. Look at the roster. I think a lot of people kind of fell into that trap with the Baltimore Ravens this year where you look at some of the names on this team, obviously starting with their MVP quarterback in Lamar Jackson. And you think, where are the holes? Like, you know, there's nothing really wrong with this team, but on defense, that's assuming that Roquan Smith is who he's been in the past, which I didn't see last night. That's assuming that, you know, Teddy Buchanan, the rookie linebacker, can be a big plus. I didn't see that last night. Obviously, they're down Matabike. They're down Kyle Van Noy, probably their best two players inside and outside. Although OA would have something to say about that. Their defensive line doesn't wow me. You know, there's nobody out there, especially with Matabike down, who's like, you know, you have to plan around this guy. And, you know, last night as the game went on, 224 yards rushing. And a lot of that was just sheer determination, you know, being determined to run the football, committing to it. I think they broke off probably 80 yards on one David Montgomery run backed up. But that's a lot of fucking yards, even if you take that big explosive out of it. They just kept at it. And you know, Jared Goff said that after the game. He said, the defensive line got tired. Another quote that stuck out to me after the game was Marlon Humphrey saying, this defense isn't very good. We're not very good. And I'm paraphrasing, but I would agree. And to me, like, you know, Lamar and the offense can score. But as we've seen in the past, when you get in the playoffs, not all the games are going to be 68-point totals. And so how does your defense play in the big spots? Well, they haven't played very well in the big spots so far. And I got to be honest, like Kyle Hamilton and Marlon Humphrey, they jump off the screen when you watch them. Those are the only two guys on that defense that jump off the screen for me. And if you were to take them off that defense, if you were to lose one of those two guys, I mean, and we're playing hypotheticals. I'm trying to illustrate the point. If you were to replace those two guys with average players, I don't know where this defense would have been last night. Or replace one of those two guys with anybody. It was just not pretty. They could not get a pass rush on Jared Goff. We all know who Jared Goff is when he's clean. You know, when he's clean, he's the guy on 4th and 2 when Dan Campbell drops his nuts and says, you know, up a touchdown, we don't want to give the ball back. We're gonna go play action here. To Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm going to drop a dime and one, gets held coming out of the stack. That's a situation where, you know, Jared Goff's not going to miss. Jared Goff doesn't miss when he's clean. There was a situation in this game. I don't know if y'all remember this play, but it was like 3rd and 5, and Goff tried to roll right and throw like across his body, and I literally saw his hips lock. It was like, hey, me too, Jared. I'm the same fucking way. If I tried to throw that football, I think my hips would do the same thing. He's not that guy, but who he is he can throw darts when he's clean, and he was clean all night last night. And credit to the offensive line. Credit to the interior offensive line. This isn't the test that they saw week 1. I still believe that test with it looming in the rubber match with Green Bay is going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
But the longer they go, as we've said, the better they're going to get because they're playing together. And I thought the guards played well last night. Ratledge, Mahogany, you know, they got some doubles on guys. And again, I talked about the linebackers not being like standouts for Baltimore. Like the doubles weren't coming off guys at times. right?
Right.
And Penei Sewell in the run game last night was fun to watch. He hip tossed Mike Green on one play, and it looked like one of these Nature's Bloody Instagram accounts that I follow, where you just see like some sort of a predator taking down, an antelope, and poor Mike Green, his legs were like in the air, and Sewell just dumps him, and obviously the big run behind Montgomery. The Montgomery run was right behind Sewell. And so the teeth of the Ravens defense, I know it's the Lions, but it didn't look great. And 224 yards rushing is eventually going to get you. I talked about the linebackers, not great. Talked about the defensive line, not great. Clean sheet for the offensive line. The trick plays, John Morton. This has felt like, since week one, it's felt like hey, fuck you guys. From the Detroit Lions, from Dan Campbell, from John Morton. And I don't blame him, because the one thing we came out of the first game and said was, hey, listen, while I think Green Bay's taking the next step and I like Green Bay in that matchup, that doesn't mean that Detroit's not going to be a good football team this year. And just because Ben Johnson left, when he left, what did we say? Hey, can you take that offensive line with you, Ben? No, well, it's not going to be easy. Do I think Ben Johnson succeeds? Yeah. But that doesn't mean Detroit's not going to succeed with a new play caller, with their culture intact, with a lot of the same players. So as time goes on, you see in the Chicago game, Detroit drops 50 on Ben Johnson. They're running up the score. Last night, the trick plays. The throwback just felt like a throwaway. But the 4th and 2 in the red zone was a masterful deal. Now, Nolan, you sent me this tweet. I want to give credit to whoever caught it. It was Dan Casey, Coach Dan Casey on X. He caught that in 2019, I believe, the Saints ran the same play. Okay? Now Dan Campbell was with New Orleans on the staff when they ran that play. But if you dig even deeper, that's not all Dan Casey. This is what he says. 2003, the backside tight end is Dan Campbell, and they're running the same damn play. And the film looks like it's 1994, which is totally fucking me up, because I was in the NFL not soon after that. But they run the same play in Dallas in 2003. So for me, that's it's kind of a fuck you. It's like, we're gonna do what we do, and would you think we were gonna be completely different now? Like the guy in Chicago is the only guy who can call trick plays.
Yeah, and another cool thing about that play, Chris,
is they option Mike Green, who's seen 5 snaps of NFL football.
Yeah, so there was actually a 3rd and 1 mid-second quarter, the red zone. They came out in that exact same look, Amon-Ra at fullback, and I think Goff checked out of it because the A-gap was uncovered. That's where he took the sneak on 3rd and 1. So they came back to it in the 4th quarter, and the Ravens were all gapped out there. They had the numbers they wanted on the edge. And obviously hit pay dirt. So cool to see them kind of sequencing that throughout the game too.
Well, it's such a tough play to defend. Like if you're that overhang player, there's just you're not prepared for that at all. And they just run the corner off with Laporta, and he has no idea what's going on. So to me, that play right there in crunch time, they're still who they are. 4th and 2 at the end of the game. We're not going to run the ball. We got 224 yards rushing or whatever it is. We're going to throw the fucking football. They just kept at it in the run game. So John Morton, take a bow. John Morton, I was looking at him in the box last night, and he's kind of got one of his arms rested up on the side of the table, and I was like, man, is his shoulder fucked up or something? And I was like, oh yeah, didn't he play football? He played football. Excuse me for not knowing, but John Morton was a wide receiver in the NFL, I think the CFL and that sort of thing. So,
a little bit of NFL Europe too.
Little NFL Europe.
The Frankfurt Galaxy,
John Morton. So I see a John Morton up in the booth trying to get comfortable and calling a hell of a game. Now, the other guy that called a hell of a game, and I am a big fan of his, is Kelvin Shepherd. Because Kelvin Shepherd, after week 1, and we talked about this, he stood up at the podium and he tried to illustrate how close the group was. Even against the Packers, where I thought they got manhandled a little bit, I just – and that was more as a team. They got manhandled. But what gets lost in the shuffle is what Kelvin Shepard's trying to say is like, we're this close. You know, we did this really well. We did this really well. We did that really well. And, you know, if you're skeptical or cynical, you're like, no, you didn't. Y'all got your ass kicked. But I've been in meetings after a tough loss and had coordinators like that try to illustrate, guys, we are so close. If we just do this little thing well or that little thing well that we missed today, we could be a very good defense. And I got to tell you, he's done a hell of a job. He did a really nice job last night. Okay, 7 sacks on Lamar Jackson. That's playing team defense. And the time to sack, the time to pressure, that certainly factors in. It's not like they're just whooping the offensive line up and down the line. But the Ravens are going to hold on to the football. Lamar's going to try to make some magic happen. So can you turn some of those 30 pressures last night into sacks? And they did, with 7 of them. I look at the front for this group, for Detroit, and this isn't taking anything away from them. But, you know, Tyleik Williams is in the game. You know, you've got DJ Reader. You've got some names you know, rookies, veterans, and you obviously have Aiden Hutchinson. But outside of that, they're starting Al-Quadin Muhammad. This was the Al-Quadin Muhammad game, Nolan. It was the Al-Quad game.
The AQM game.
AQM game. And fucking Troy Aikman was like, well, you know, he doesn't have a single ounce of talent, but he sure does try hard. Like, my wife walked in and was like, who are they talking about? And I was like, that's Al-Quadin Muhammad, babe.
I wonder if you're like his family, you're like all fired up, he made the play, and then you're like, oh, come on.
Yeah, just like just backhanded compliment fest, you know. But guys like that made a bunch of plays. I saw Nowaski break down middle of the field and tackle Lamar Jackson. Jackson's giving him everything he's got. Nowaski's like,
that looked like danger zone.
Yes, it did. You know what else looks like danger zone when it's third down? And I don't know what they're all mugged up. It's like the 7 on the line look, and they get to like they're in the red, and they get to like cover 4 or some 3 or 4 deep coverage where there's a lot of space underneath, and you know, late in the down, Barnes has to knife in and clip Lamar's ankle to make the play. You know, like Barnes was huge in those situations last night. The late ads, I thought, you know, Kelvin Shepard did a great job with late ads on rushes. And, you know, like oftentimes that is the way to go with Lamar. You know, because if you bring the house and you're not perfect, there are different levels in pass rush. Just like you talk about different levels in the run game, there can be different levels in the pocket. But if you have a late ad guy that Lamar might not be accounting for early in his calculation, it can muddy the whole thing up. You can kind of catch him flat-footed, you know, because at first he's diagnosing, then he's looking downfield, because a lot of their routes, they do take a minute to develop. And if you add that late rusher, which Kelvin Shepard did last night a lot, whether it's a spy or whether it was just group swarm, I thought the entire defensive line did a great job of just corralling him. They really understood how to rush him. And obviously the backers made huge plays. You know, talked about Barnes, Anzalone flying around, Campbell on the goal line.
Yep.
I mean, that was a huge play in that game, dude. And it was preceded by Al Quad, you know, doing a little thing like widening the U block and stretching a play towards the sideline so that guys can make the play on the perimeter. Like little things like, you know, on first down, I think it was Aiden Hutchinson olaying a tight end and taking a couple so that somebody can just fight and scratch and claw and get Derrick Henry down. You live to fight another day, and you never know what happens down in that goal line area. And I thought the mentality of this defense, I don't want to say like it's obvious to me that it was a former player, but like, yeah. This is a group run by a former player, and it's got that kind of energy about it. And I think they're incredibly talented. I think they've got some good players, but that front played above their talent level last night. And I hate to Troy Aikman in the front. Now Aiden Hutchinson's a star, and he had to make the big play in the fourth quarter. He had to make the big play on Derrick Henry. The punch, and now that's 3 fumbles on 43 carries for Derrick Henry this year. Between 23 and 24, this is a Shio Kapadia poll. 3 fumbles on 694 carries.
Wow.
That's crazy. So maybe something's going on with Derrick Henry. Could be mental. Maybe he's – I don't know. I've never been a running back. I've never had to keep the ball high and tight. And certainly, like, Aiden Hutchinson made a great play on the ball. But last week they held Derrick Henry to 20 yards on, like, a bunch of carries. Cleveland did, and you saw how good they looked this week. But, like, that's got to be a frustrating deal. Derrick Henry's season so far is 2 fourth-quarter fumbles and getting shut down by Cleveland. So – you got this Ravens team that whether it's defense and we got out over our skis, and Kevin Clark called this Ravens team the of course team, which I mean, that's an interesting way to think about things. But he was like, when I look back at certain years and a team wins the whole thing, sometimes you look at the roster on that team and you're like, of course they did. Why do we make it so complicated in preseason? And I think we've all kind of fallen into the trap of just assuming that the Ravens are going to be this juggernaut. And I know they're down some guys for sure. And likely, offensively, does hurt them. Being down likely hurts them. Andrews, they got some good targets out of Andrews last night and that sort of thing. He can still be a safety valve for Lamar Jackson. But, again, I don't look at the wide receiver group and say, wow. I mean, Bateman played well last night. I don't look at the defensive line and say, wow, there are some areas on this team where I'm not in love with the roster, and certainly you've got your stars, but then there's also things that I think we assumed would be home runs. Like you think Roquan Smith's going to be the Roquan Smith of old, or you think Jair Alexander, who didn't play last night, is going to be A, healthy, or B, the player from like 2020. I don't know. And I come into this game with them being 1-2, certainly having lost to 2 very good football teams. But some of the same symptoms arising with this team. The goal line stand for Detroit.
Yeah.
That's a spot where you've got to have 6. 4th and 2, money downs, 4th downs. You talk about obviously the fumble. Derrick Henry in the first quarter when he ran for that first touchdown, I was like, man, he looks like a fucking small car. Honestly, he looks so big. I don't know what it is about like him wearing all black or what it is, or him not having dreads.
Yeah, because I remember when we went to Detroit and you sat down with Jack Campbell and like you literally said to him, like you were like, have you ever played Derrick Henry? He's the size of offensive lineman. And Jack Campbell was like, we gotta get ready to roll.
Yeah, Jack and Jack was.
But ironically, I mean, last night Campbell was awesome in the run fit, and when he's inserting from depth, it's like having a defensive end flying downhill with how big he is. He's kind of like the perfect counterpunch in that way.
No question. I mean, having a big physical backer for Derrick Henry is huge. But I just early in the game, when he scored that first touchdown, man, the stadium looked so fucking cool. It was like he looked so intimidating out there in all black, and they're turning the lights on and off, and you're like, this is a fucking video game, boss.
They're doing like 7 Nation Army.
Yeah, like how do you stop this guy? Well, you stop him because like any video game boss, he's got a little weakness, and that weakness has been the football so far this year. This becomes a thing. Like if he fumbles again next week, this becomes a thing. I mean, and the Ravens are a lot like that damn video game boss, where you're like, how do we beat the Ravens? But they have a lot of weaknesses. They have like these slick little weaknesses that if you can exploit them, you can beat them. And last night the Lions did just that. They took the fight to them. They ran the football. The defense looks pedestrian to me in that form. And certainly if you just hang in there and you can tackle Lamar Jackson, which is not an easy task, these guys did that in space. I want to say this before we finish. DJ Reed is going to make such a impact on this team. Already has. I thought his short area quickness was on display last night in so many moments. He's just, I love the way he plays. I love the way he plays. And I love the way, obviously, Brian Branch plays. The guys, put him in the, I don't want to say in the class of Kyle Hamilton, but like he's cut from that cloth where it's like this is a guy you can do 15 things with. And the range is crazy. On that play Jack Campbell made, like Lamar, he's looking at the flat and he's looking at Zay Flowers running a crosser in the back of the end zone, and Branch, who's out leveraged, somehow just kind of hangs in there. The quickness and the speed that these two guys play with, it changes things. And you talk about having a differentiating factor like a Jack Campbell at backer, like they are tough to match up with, and that's even without like a number 2 rusher.
Right.
And Hutchinson, throughout much of the game, I thought the tackles did a pretty good job on him. But then in the fourth quarter, and this is what great players do, is they pick a spot and they make a play. And it was second down for him. I think it was an early down rush where he gets the Ravens behind the sticks. And that might not be a third down, but in a game where every punt is a big deal, forcing a damn punt, when you take a sack in the NFL, your chances of scoring a touchdown on that drive go way down. And I thought that was a huge play. Great players make plays down the stretch. I thought Hutch was big in that spot.
And on that note, Chris, just one more line we can give some love. I think there's some kind of conversation to be had about Amon-Ra St. Brown as one of the most clutch players in the game right now. And like typically that conversation centers around QBs for good reason. But I feel like every big Lions got to have it moment since St. Brown's been in Detroit. The ball's going his way, and he makes that play every time. And this game was bookended by 2 of those plays. The fourth down in the red zone to start the game, he beats Hamilton on the speed out. And then, of course, the fourth down at the end of the game you talked about where, delayed release beats Humphrey. He is just one of those ice water in his veins types guys.
I mean, shit, the hezzy on the wheel in the red zone was disgusting, and the mic picked up, some of his sentiments. And that's why I think touchdowns on the road are the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
When you can score a touchdown on the road and your team's fired up and you can hear it at home, the mic picks up, the offensive lineman and the running back screaming at each other, or wide receiver just screaming at the camera. I love to see teams go in on the road and take over a stadium, and that is not an easy place to go play. The bank at night, dude, that's not an easy place to play at all. And the thing you said about Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think we is he like, I mean, I'm looking at I don't even know what year this is for him because it all runs together, but
this is year 5.
Year 5. He's on a Hall of Fame trajectory.
No doubt.
Now going there means staying healthy and, having the same quarterback in some circumstances, or, like keeping the band together and producing. But, I think sometimes we underestimate when we do the whole, Ben Johnson, the offensive line, like it's just a system. He's a fucking weapon.
He's awesome.
He's an absolute weapon that changes the game for them. And sometimes I think we assumed at times that, like, with this group, it's the scheme. Well, I mean, he might be the centerpiece. I mean, he is the centerpiece.
And Aikman said on the broadcast last night, he said Jared Goff said Amon-Ra is the best receiver he's ever thrown to. What do you think about the guys he's worked with over the years? That's pretty high praise.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Lions back in business. Ravens, they're in trouble. But they do have, let's see, who do they have next week?
Ravens play the Chiefs. Lions have the Browns.
Ooh, that's fun.
One bit on the Chiefs-Ravens game is that since 2015, 2015 was the last time these teams were not 1-3 when they met each other, the Ravens and the Chiefs. So for the first time since 2015, one of these two teams will be 1-3 to start the season.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a like fight for your life game. That's going to be an absolute
Street fight.
desperation backed into a corner because they got Kansas City, Houston, LA coming up. Houston, no, Houston. I don't want Metallica, baby.
Wherever I may roam, every road win. That should be their locker room soundtrack.
I'm sure they have some Metallica lyrics somewhere in the building. They need to have Jim Otto in that fucking building. I'm going to text Dan and be like, yo, did you put up a Jim Otto quote in the building? What's going on, dog?
We should send him a jersey.
I'm going to send him a Jim Otto jersey and some Copenhagen. Take care.